those who are outside Makueni in Kenya. Whenever we, for example, are creating policies or developing our budgets, we always talk to them. We have public participation meetings with them so that we can get their input. So that most of the things that we do in our county in terms of developing legislation, developing policies, budgets, and so on, we tap that resource. Because for us, the diaspora that is inside Kenya and that is outside Kenya, inside Kenya because it is outside Makueni in Kenya. For us, one of the most important things is this is a resource. This is a very, very critical resource, because whether it is the professional people, whether it is the investors, whether it is even clergy who are not in Makueni but are from Makueni, this is a very important resource for us. And even before we talk about investments, we think about the ideas that we shall get from them in a situation where county governments are forming, so that they contribute to the genesis of our county government, so that they help us there. When we talk about the diaspora from abroad, one of the things that we as a county have wanted to do, even as we have developed a policy on diaspora affairs, and even as we have established a directorate that takes care of diaspora affairs among other issues, we first of all try to know who is where in the world as much as we can from Makueni. We are trying to get a database of those people. And indeed, when they come home, because many of them do come home, they are able to contact us so that we work together. Sometimes it's very interesting that I can be told of a local problem by somebody who is from abroad, because the relatives have talked about this problem to this person abroad, and because they believe that this person has more authority, they may believe that this person has more authority than themselves, then this person becomes an ambassador, and in turn is able to tell us that in this situation there is this problem of the road, there is this problem, so which is very, very interesting that somebody who is that far can be able to be an intermediary on behalf of local communities. And we like that, because it means that they're even able to professionalize the issue and even give us advice on how an issue like that can be tackled. There is very robust debate, especially in the social media, with our diaspora, so that they continuously tell us things that we need to do to shape our policy.
Regardless of the reasons and the causes that precipitate this departure, and regardless of where you are now settled and how you got there and whether you are legally recognized and so on, a defining feature of Kenyan and all diasporas is they leave their country of origin, settle in a new country, and try to mainstream themselves into that new country of residence. So you've got an African, a Kenyan in this case, who's left Kenya and is now in a new country and trying very hard. The speaker said working 3 jobs, juggling 5 balls, doing whatever it takes to mainstream into this new country that you now call home. Now, in the past, and this is a trend from the early 60s and 70s, the diasporas tended to limit or sever their relationship with the home country. They just went and, you know, just got lost. It was virtually the lost generation, if you will. Very little ties with the country of origin, the early generation of diaspora. And being from Ethiopia, I know because I became a diaspora in the early 1970s, and for about a good 25, 30 years had no contact with my own country till very recently. However, today that has changed. Advances in ICT, communication, and enhanced globalization and so on means that to be a Kenyan doesn't mean to be living in Kenya. You can be a Kenyan and living anywhere. Geography no longer matters. In the old days, you're a Kenyan, you live in Kenya, not anymore. Geography is irrelevant now, and communication options around the world make it easy to be somewhere else and also be Kenyan, also be an African. Hence, Kenyans in the diaspora today are able to give back, to remain connected with their roots, for young diaspora born in this other country, outside of Kenya, really has an impact on how they mainstream themselves into the process. For diaspora, both young and old, though, being part of, but for both diaspora, young and old, not being a part of Kenya, whether physically or virtually, has an opportunity cost, a tangible opportunity cost. Not being able to sit at the table when Kenya's transformation is being discussed, debated, and decided on, has an opportunity cost. Yes, you have offices, the governor's offices and the ministry and so on, but not having an office at a time, particularly at this very time when Kenya's transformation is really taking off, and new and innovative and exciting things are happening in Kenya, not being part of that is a serious and a tangible opportunity cost. Now, as I said, this is perhaps one of the best times to be in Kenya, to be doing things in Kenya. A lot is happening. Some challenges, yes, but a lot is happening in Kenya. And it's important for the diaspora to remain engaged. You cannot come when everything is said and done and come on top and expect to be treated because you've come back from the US or the UK. It's no longer a novelty to come back from the US or the UK. You have to be engaged here today through various means. The governor says he has an office, the diaspora network. I mean, I think this is a wonderful network through which to have your voices heard. I want to put that. But to minimize this opportunity cost, Kenya and other African countries, and particularly Kenya, are pursuing what I call purposeful policies designed to strengthen the linkage with the diaspora abroad. And this entails, amongst others, facilitating their return. No, perhaps the first one would be every time the president goes, or the speaker or government officials, they reach out to Kenyans. Meet with them, ask where the shoe is pinching, what the government can do. If they want to come back, they try to facilitate their return. But in most cases, I suspect they're not interested in returning, so they provide them with incentives, tax incentives. Can I bring my car duty free? What? Let us remember that the diaspora is not a cash cow, that gold mine that just keeps getting, you dig and to get resources. They have many other qualities that they bring to the table. As I said, the resource is definitely one, but the know-how, the network, the knowledge, we must stop. And this is not a Kenya issue. Across Africa, we see the diaspora, the cash cow, bond or remittance. They are much more than that. But their contributions, particularly remittances, mobilized through innovative instruments, include cash transfers for immediate family subsistence, diaspora bonds, which everyone knows about, securitized remittances, and investments into productive sectors, channeled through specialized banking platforms. I think today there are special platforms that cater to diaspora remittances. Having said that, if anyone is here from the banking sector, the cost of transferring money into Kenya is still too high, and unnecessarily so. So I think there is something that the diaspora network needs to look at. The cost of transferring money into Kenya is too high. And this is something but through this remittance process, the diaspora is mainstreaming into the Kenyan economic life. Equally, the diaspora is being mainstreamed through enhanced skill transfers and institutional capacity support. Most Kenyans in the diaspora have successfully completed advanced training and have positioned themselves as world-class professionals. To the US, the UK, Australia, Kenyan doctors, scientists, bankers, they're everywhere. So they're world-class operators. Beyond remittances, this cohort is mainstreamed into building Kenya through technology and skills transfer, and contribute to the transfer of modern management practices and standards into Kenya. So their network, their experience, their know-how is helping build institutional and human capacity in Kenya. Examples abound where diaspora have effected skills transfer by serving as brain trusts, connecting Kenya to expertise not available in Kenya, and in some ways compensating for the departure of skilled migrants. And lastly, the diaspora is also helping integrate into the trade and investment space. Diasporas have been very successful in investing directly themselves and convincing others to invest into Kenya to do the same. They facilitate trade with their country of origin, between their country of origin and their new country. So having them in the diaspora is certainly a plus. A World Bank study of African diaspora in Europe found a very strong correlation between the existence of diaspora nationals and the increase both in direct investment and portfolio investment. Similarly, existence of large Kenyan diaspora in a given country increases trade ties with that country by up to 1%. I think diasporas first need to understand that you are Kenyans living overseas, but certainly not a special class of Kenyans, as it were. You know? So to demand all these privileges and extras is really unfounded. Yes, by virtue of having lived 20, 30 years overseas, you should be entitled to some benefit, but you cannot expect excessive things over other Kenyans. But we need to make it easy for them to transact, because they have now learned new standards. Here at the African Development Bank, let me just say one or two propaganda and then I'll step down. We at the African Development Bank are supporting the African Union and collaborating with the World Bank and so on to see how we can leverage the diaspora resources around the world to the development of Africa. We need to close the financing gap in this continent. Yes, government will do some part, but it's far from enough. Private sector will do some part, it's far from enough. There is a very clear role for the diaspora to engage in this. This requires what we call patient capital, money that you can put into a road project, a power project, 10 years, 15 years, 10 years, 25 years, 10 years. So this is patient capital, but we are providing vehicles and guarantees for diasporas to invest in their countries, and we provide guarantee against loss of repayment.
The independence movement for this continent of Africa was largely championed by diasporans. So if you look to the days of the Kwame Nkrumahs and the Nyereres and the Azikiwes and the Jomo Kenyattas and so many of the African leaders, the Mbekis who had to live overseas while their country was suffering under apartheid, there was a huge foreign dimension, foreign exposure, foreign experience that led to the independence movement throughout Africa. People who would be our parents' age went to study, usually in the UK or the US, saw how governance and democracy was practiced there, experienced various forms of racial discrimination against themselves, realized that their own countries back home were still colonial, under colonial rule, and came to fight for the independence of our country. Is having had our parents gain political independence for us, and of course now you have here in Kenya a second generation of Kenyattas as your leader, then what is the next responsibility or the current responsibility of diasporans as far as Africa's development is concerned? And I would make bold to say, and I think it's quite obvious, that if the first generation of diasporans pre-independence brought political independence to Ghana, then the post-independence diasporans' primary responsibility must be to assure Africa of its economic and financial independence and prosperity. So we have, over the years, been concerned about brain drain, but as I'm saying, because of the role that information and communication technologies are now playing, especially for the younger generation, we actually have the potential of having brain gain, meaning you can stay wherever you are in Canada, Australia, in Italy, in Korea, or Brazil, and all your country needs initially is your brain power. How do we tap into the brain power of communities of Africans who are scientists, who don't know each other, but they are Kenyan scientists in Australia and Ghanaian scientists in Australia. There are Kenyan scientists in Germany and Nigerian scientists in Germany. There are Ethiopian scientists in Canada and there are Malawian scientists in Canada. But do they know each other? And so how do we create this network of knowledge amongst our diaspora community so that even while they are there, our governments and our countries can tap into that knowledge, and most of them are willing to offer the knowledge for free because they are being paid reasonably well anyway. A word, profit, P-R-O-F-I-T, as an easy way to remember some of the ways in which I believe that the diasporan issue can be handled by governments, by policymakers, by professional groups, and by the Kenya Diaspora Alliance, where the P stands for the policies. What are the policies that countries and governments can put in place, all the way from the African Union level, East African Community level, Kenya National Assembly, Kenya Cabinet level, to attract and to make use of the diasporans of Kenya while they're outside, when they come back. One of the frustrations of diasporans is that everyone would wish they could leave their $150,000 job and get a job in Kenya that is $175,000. And that is not really realistic. You can't leave a $75,000 job and come and get a $100,000 job in Nigeria, Ghana, Zimbabwe, or Ethiopia. So the sacrificial element, and maybe that's why I'm also here, which many diasporans are not willing to forego, are one of the things that diasporans must think about, because you are coming back to serve your nation, to serve your continent. And unless you have that spirit of sacrifice for the longer term benefit of your continent or country, you will never come back. But the salaries here will never ever truly match just the nominal salaries you can get overseas.
All of our affiliated diaspora organizations. So for the
subject, but we want to bring it down to
from out there, the funds can come, work within the company.
I think we'll mention you as soon as we find that any.
But I think that can be done later. But
No, you're still ours. Fantastic. Okay. So please come to the campus. No. Symbols that you see on TV, GE for general exhibition, PG for parental guidance, but there are main two aims. One is to promote our culture and values, but the other one is to protect children from exposure to content. So basically, rating of content is very important to observe what we call the watershed period, ensure that content that is not absolutely. So we have a lot to do. Thanks for see you. Karibuni. Yeah. Thanks.
The problem with this program was I'm supposed to invite a couple of people. I didn't realize you can translate conversations into money and money into conversations. But when I served in public office, especially